Today, we're doing a book club edition. We've got our hands on the first chapter of this narrative called Range Error, Behind the Curtain.
Yeah.
And I have to say, looking at these notes, this is not your typical, spaceship and laser beam sci-fi.
No, it's definitely not. It feels much more grounded, almost claustrophobic, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's a mix of a high-stakes political thriller, some really gritty dystopian survival, and let's be honest, some pretty visceral bio-horror, like right from page one.
It is intense. The setting is described as being just next door to our reality, so
Yeah.
not a galaxy far, far away.
Right. It's a post-apocalyptic world that's rebuilt itself after a global civil war they just called the Troubles.
And that context feels so important. The Troubles broke the world, and this entity that put it all back together is called Inter.
A global technocracy. Their slogan is built by the people for the people, which, sounds pretty comforting, right?
It sounds like every political campaign ever. But in this case, the order they restored seems to come with a very, very high price tag.
A huge one.
The notes mention a specific technological twist. They used a combination of eugenics and artificial intelligence to create human hybrids.
And that's the core premise. Inter filled that power vacuum by basically manufacturing a new kind of enforcer. But what I love about this first chapter is that it doesn't just start with a history lesson.
No, it drops us right in.
It drops us right into the consequences of that technology.
Consequences is a polite way of putting it. We open an interbiolab, and this is not some sterile, white-walled facility.
Not at all.
The description is just sensory overload. You've got alarms flashing, red emergency lights, and the walls are literally splattered with blood.
It's a disaster scene. We're seeing the aftermath of a containment breach. There's a character named Hobbs. He's the head of defense for Inter. And he is looking down at a room where his entire tactical team has been, well, dismantled.
Dismantled by what the text calls a monstrosity behind the glass.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that just stopped me in my tracks. This monster is the size of a child.
That's the real horror element. It's a child-sized entity, but it has this alien strength.
Yeah.
It pinned a fully armored guard to the glass and just leached the life out of him.
It's terrifyingly efficient.
It is. But then just as quickly as it started, the creature collapses, it shrieks, and just drops dead.
So the monster wins the fight, but loses the war against its own biology. And this brings us to Morgan. She's the lead scientist here.
Right.
And you'd expect her to be horrified. I mean, her creation just killed a bunch of people, but her reaction is completely detached.
She's not even looking at the body. She's looking at the telemetry. She's asking why. About the failure, not about the deaths.
And that's where we get a really interesting technical detail about this world. Another scientist, Dr. Becker, explains it was a vector embedding failure.
I love that term.
I want to dig into that. Vector embedding usually relates to machine learning, mapping data so a computer can understand it. Why use that term for a biological creature?
It's such a fascinating narrative choice. I mean, think of the human body as legacy hardware, like an old computer. Morgan is trying to upload a new, highly complex program.
And pathogen.
The pathogen, exactly. This thing that enhances strength and reflexes into that old hardware.
So the software is just too advanced for the machine.
Exactly. The source material says the human biological structure is too delicate. It can't regenerate fast enough to keep up with the instructions the pathogen is giving it.
Wow.
So the vector embedding failure is basically a system crash, but it's biological. The body just burns out because it can't run the program.
That makes Morgan's attitude even darker. She's treating these subjects like they're just buggy software.
Complete.
She compares sample 106, the one that just died, to a 10-year-old girl from the slums named Kimberly Burke. To her, they're just data points.
And Hobbs calls her out on it. He's screaming, "They were my best men," talking about his security team.
And what's her reply?
Morgan just drawls back. "My hybrids would have handled that if you'd let them." She sees humans as obsolete.
She even calls the test subjects her golden geese. There's this really twisted maternal vibe to her.
Oh, absolutely.
She goes to visit another subject, sample 87, who's a young man in a cage, and she acts like a mother to him, but then she subjects him to what looks like pure torture.
She submerges him in an icy tank for 20 minutes before extraction. It's not cruelty for cruelty's sake, which that almost makes it worse.
It does. It's calibration.
It's calibration. She's testing his vitals. It establishes this theme of physical violence immediately. In this world, human life is just raw material for the project.
But the horror doesn't just stay in the lab. The story shifts gears completely and moves us to the corporate side of things. We go to Inter's glass castle.
And this transition is so key. We go from that bloody, visceral violence of the lab to the quiet, administrative violence of the office. We meet Ardan.
Ardan feels like a character we all know.
Yeah.
He's the office dinosaur. He's hunched over an old laptop because he hates the new holographic monitors. He's got old ivory fingers.
He just seems like a tired bureaucrat.
Totally harmless.
Yeah.
He's painted that way, initially. His coworker, Ingrid, even tells him, "You're so thoughtful. You're a rare breed." She thinks he's working late to help the poor.
Right. Processing files.
But as soon as she leaves, the mask just drops. He's not working. He's watching adult content on his screen.
Yeah.
And then he gets a phone call.
On a vintage mobile phone.
Yes. Which, in a high-tech society like Inter, that ringing is a massive red flag. It implies a back channel, something completely off the grid.
And the voice on the other end makes him an offer. 2 million credits?
But the specific type of credit is what really got my attention. Food and O2 credits.
That detail does so much heavy lifting for the world building. It tells you that in this society, breathing and eating aren't rights. They're subscriptions.
So 2 million credits isn't just buy a boat money.
No, it's guaranteed survival money. Life-changing.
So Arden, this selfless guy, is facing a temptation that literally guarantees his life. And the voice says, consider it a gift from one old school guy to another.
But there's a quid pro quo, of course.
Of course. So what does he have to do for this windfall?
He has to ensure that Morgan's lab, the one with the exploding hybrid children, wins the tender for biometric ID when new passports roll out.
Wow. And that just connects the dots in a terrifying way.
Right.
The lab isn't just some side project.
Yeah.
If they win this tender, Morgan's monsters and her technology get integrated into the passport system. They become part of the public infrastructure.
And Ardan agrees. He sells out the integrity of the entire system for his own food and air. It's the banality of evil.
The lab provides the horror, but the bureaucrat provides the permission.
Exactly.
So we've seen the physical violence in the lab, the administrative corruption in the tower. Now the story takes us down to the ground level.
To the slums, or the third. This is where the victims of the system live. And we meet Petrov.
Who is not a scientist or a suit.
And he's watching two targets. King, who is a female leader, and Alessandro, her advisor.
He has the shot lined up. He says, 2 birds, 1 stone. But this feels personal for him.
It's deeply personal. The narrative gives us this quick glimpse into his head. He's haunted by a memory of a woman named Annika and a promise he made at Lake Como.
And he blames King and Alessandro for whatever happened to her.
Right, so he's ready to kill them. He's thinking, you promised, but he doesn't take the shot, or, well, he doesn't shoot them.
This is such a great character beat.
It is. As he squeezes the trigger, he has this, sensory hallucination. He smells vanilla. He feels a hand on his... It stops him from killing them, but he still fires.
He puts a bullet into the dirt right next to them.
Yeah.
Why do that? I mean, if you aren't going to kill him, why give away your position?
I think it's psychological warfare. He thinks to himself that he doesn't need to kill them to make them pay. He wants them to run. He wants them to be afraid.
He wants them to know they're being watched.
Exactly. It's almost crueler than just killing them. It strips away their sense of safety.
And that gunshot sends King and Alessandro scrambling to our next location,
Okay.
which I think is where the philosophical heart of this chapter really lies.
Segment 4, yeah. They hide out in Alessandro's home in the slums, and his home is just a stark contrast to everything else we've seen.
It's a shipping container, but inside it's a library.
It is. The source describes it as homely. Real books, wooden flooring, salvaged furniture. It sounds almost cozy.
But King hates it. She's the leader of this new world, and she wants to seal it to keep the filth out.
She's disgusted by the proximity to the slums. She says the troubles are over. There's no need to live like everyone else.
She's acting just like the elite she replaced.
She is. But Alessandro pushes back hard. He refuses to upgrade his living situation. He has this amazing line, satisfaction isn't found in claiming quantity, but in offering quality.
He's the moral compass here, isn't he?
Totally. He compares Inter to the Vulov, the old empire they overthrew. He reminds King that the old nobles would eat until they were sick while people starved.
His argument is that if Inter wants to be legitimate, it has to serve, not just rule.
It's the classic revolutionary dilemma. You fight the monster, and then you start trying on the monster's clothes.
King is worried about her image. She says, I'm a public figure now. She's just drifting away from the people she's supposed to represent.
And Alessandro is trying to be her anchor. But there's something else going on with King, something that moves us from political philosophy into straight-up psychological horror.
The dreams. She goes back to her luxury spire suite high above the clouds, but she can't sleep. She's having nightmares about someone named Drace.
And Alessandro has this theory about the dreams. He doesn't think it's just stress. He thinks they're coding updates.
That phrase just chills me. Coding your operating system.
Right. It implies that the leaders of this world aren't just being influenced. They are being literally biologically reprogrammed. Alessandro suggests that Grace isn't a person.
But a control mechanism.
A control mechanism. So when King is standing on her balcony, looking down at the world, justifying her luxury, we're better than the Vulov. Law and order had been restored. Is that her talking, or is that the program?
That's the question the chapter leaves us with. She realizes she feels exactly like she's being controlled. She's terrified that her convictions are just lines of code.
And that completes the triad of violence in this chapter.
It does. We started with the physical violence of the hybrids, we moved to the administrative violence of the bribe, and now we end with the psychological violence of having your own mind rewritten.
It paints a picture of a total system, a system that controls the body, the bureaucracy, and the mind.
It makes you wonder who is actually running the show. Is it the people? Is it Inter? Or is it this Grace?
Well, if the leadership is being coded, then the entire structure of this society is just artificial. It's an algorithm running a civilization.
Which brings us all the way back to Alessandro. If everyone else is either a hybrid, a corrupt bureaucrat, or a programmed leader, he might be the only free human left.
And he's the one living in a box reading old books. It suggests that to be human in this world, you have to disconnect from the system entirely.
It's a heavy start to the story. But I want to circle back to something Alessandro said. He suggests King's political beliefs are just updates.
Right.
It forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. If that technology existed, if our leaders, or even we ourselves, were being patched with new opinions overnight just to keep things stable,
Right.
would we know?
I really don't think we would. The scariest part of King's realization is that for a long time, she thought those thoughts were hers. If the code is good enough, you can't tell the difference between an algorithm and a personal conviction.
You just wake up feeling very strongly about a new policy, never realizing it was an upload.
That is the lingering horror of range error. It makes you question the authenticity of your own mind.
Well, on that existential note, I think we have plenty to chew on until the next chapter. This world is clearly built on secrets, and I have a feeling that vector embedding failure is just the first crack in the glass.
I agree. I am ready to see what happens when the system really starts to break down.
Thanks for joining us for this book club edition of The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon to see if Ardan enjoys his O2 credits and if King can wake up from the nightmare.
See you there.